everyone. My name is Chuck Motes. I'm your new Connecticut ARRL section manager. Okay, and the first thing I'm going to tell you is that I don't direct. The New England Division Director directs. I just manage. Okay. The second thing I'm going to tell you is that the speakers will be recorded today for posterity. Okay, so if you have any objection, then I would think you want to speak up before you get up. I don't want to be recorded or something like that. All right, this is the Nutmeg Hamfest. It's the 24th annual. It's a great time. Again, it's at Sheraton 4 Points, so we always recommend that you use Sheraton. Okay, the ARRL Forum is today. That's some guy up there, Chuck Motes, is the section manager. Also present today are Tom Frenay, K1KI, the New England Division Director of the meet, and the Vice Director, Mike Raisbeck. Okay, so we need to let you know who's who today and who's going to make presentations. I have to move back and forth on this.
But the lady whose shoes you're trying to fill is sitting right there too. You gotta
I know. Betsy has retired, okay, but she has not stopped.
No, she won't. Definitely not.
I want everybody to know that we won't. For the next couple of years anyhow, okay, it's a team effort. It's always a team effort involving amateur radio in Connecticut. So I may have the name, I may have the title, but the power behind the throne is sitting up in the front row.
Oh, no.
You can't get out of it, okay? So I'm going to ask Betsy if she would like to make any comments to begin with. Okay, K1EIC, you're retiring but never retired section manager. Betsy, any comments? Thank you.
Well, I'll just say, good morning. I'll be coming up again, right? Is
Yes, you
this
will.
fine? Okay. So I just want to say good morning, and I'm so pleased to see so many of you here. Thank you for the privilege of serving you for the last 25 years, and I am happy to assist and, be around. You'll see me at the displays and so forth. And, I enjoy what I do, so I'll be doing some of that and helping to facilitate and do what I can. It's fun. Thanks.
Okay, you can see the first part of the lineup of section appointees coming forward. I have a few appointments, okay? And I guess the first one I want to make early on is, as soon as I find it, there we are, is assistant section manager. Okay, and that of course is Betsy Doan, K1EIC. So Betsy, if you would come up here. Okay, I have both.
Oh, my goodness. Thank
Okay,
you.
that plus, okay. But I'm gonna tell you right now, that's not all. Betsy is not just assistant section manager, but there's another guy here who has another presentation.
I'll get another one.
All right. I'll leave this plug for that.
Okay, so don't go away, Betsy, because there's another guy here who wants to give you something else because, and this is an historical moment. When you're ready. Okay, so I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell you and everybody here just exactly what it's all about. Okay.
Betsy, it's Steve, K1SJW.
Yes.
Listen, I have something here that I want to give to you. And I just want to say, number one, that it's been very much of an enjoyment and very much of an honor to work under you as the DC for Sky One, both you and Wayne. And I really appreciate all the help and everything you've given to me in filling that role. And I hope, as you said, you're going to continue to be part of the league, and I'm going to look forward to seeing you at other Hamfests and such. But what I have here is, I'm going to say it's a little surprise. I'm going to give it to you, and what I'm going to ask you to do, Betsy, is I had somebody that wrote in Braille what this is about. So I'm going to hand it to you, and you can feel Braille. I'm going to ask if you would read the Braille out loud.
Attention
for everybody.
feature editors. For release Wednesday, May 27, to go with UPI Story by Mike Posner on Blind Twins. May 25 1959. Oh, yes. Hartford, Connecticut. A new world has opened up for 13-year-old twin sisters who recently earned their ham radio operator's license. Sharing a headset left to right, Barbara and Betsy Lombardi of Shelton, Connecticut attend the Oak Hill School for the Blind in Hartford. United Press International, yes it was. Oh, wow. It was, and it was in QSP. There was an article. We had a ham radio station. K1SDN was part of our group. K1PXE, we licensed 19 hams and I think 12, I don't know, but this is special.
This is the original photo
Yes.
from the Hartford
Hartford
Times?
Current, yes.
Okay, okay, with it in Braille on the front of it, so this is.
This is lovely.
This is.
I am just blown away. Thank you. That is really
You are welcome.
And thank you,
I'm so
Chuck.
glad I was able to do that for you.
Thank you, Steve.
And Ann, thank you again. Ann was the one that helped us by turning it into
Thank
Braille.
you, Ian.
Congratulations.
That was hard.
Yes, it was. It was a secret right up
No, it's
until
very
now.
difficult to keep things secret.
That's it, no.
This, we wanted to share this with everyone because it's a wonderful Christmas. Okay, I have additional appointments. If the people are here to receive these certificates, I'd appreciate it. If not, I'll mail them to them later on, okay? Dana Boardman, K1WPM, is our PIC. Okay, Public Information Coordinator. Dana. Congratulations. Doug, WA1SFH. Is Doug here?
He's on
Go box.
Okay, Jim Ritterbush, KD1 Yankee Victor. He's around too, so if you see them, they'll be by the league table. If they don't pick them up, I'll mail them out, okay? John Beatty, WF1H, is our state government liaison. John? John, thank you for your services. Come up the middle, John, it's easier.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Thank you. Section Emergency Coordinator, our new one, Mike Walters, Whiskey 8 Zulu Yankee. Mike is new to us. He's out back.
Come on, Mike.
Working on it.
Mike,
He's not new, he's not
Mike is taking over from the retiring Wayne.
Thank you, sir.
Give him a hand,
Wayne and Mike have coordinated and things are off to a real good start with them. Okay. Technical Coordinator Steve, W1SMS. Thanks, Chuck. Okay, thank you, Steve. Pleasure to serve. Assistant Section Emergency Coordinator, that's Art, AF1 Hotel Sierra, if he's around, if not. Okay. Just taking him a little time to get around. STM is Ann, our wonderful K1 STM. Okay, Ann, right up front here, got it for you right
Whose
front.
birthday it is today.
Yes. So are we gonna sing happy birthday? One, two, three.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ann. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
Yay!
Thank you, everyone. This is great. Yesterday, Betsy was a part of it. I had the most wonderful surprise party. It was great. So this is a wonderful way to spend a birthday here at the Hamfest with all my friends.
And it's nice to be able to celebrate with her too.
Thank you.
Okay. Assistant Section Manager Emeritus, you remember Al Cohen, W1FX Group,
Yes.
okay, who has been with us since Caesar was a teenager.
I thought he was Caesar's uncle.
No. Assistant Section Emergency Coordinator Brian Fernandez, K1BRF. And of course, ASEC, Assistant Section Emergency Coordinator Wayne Grunland. Okay, where are you, Wayne? And, oh yeah, Assistant Section Manager also. Wayne represents, Wayne wants to keep his hand in Region 4, but we're not letting him go because he represents Connecticut Amateur Radio to the Connecticut Interoperability Committee. Okay, a very, very important position. Okay, George, you know that he's there as well. And these guys are the voice of amateur radio to the state of Connecticut. Very, very important part. And thank you, Wayne, for the hard work that you have done and you continue to do. It's our pleasure. Okay. Mike, you have a DEC that you probably will be handing a certificate for. Ted Cibulski, K2GAB. Okay. And we'll make sure that he finishes his 001.
I already have.
I already have. All right.
Well, he's here.
You're here? Well, guess what? There you go. Okay, saves me the public. Yes, and thank you for the service. Is Chuck Newman around? NA2 Charlie November is the official observer coordinator. Okay, and he's the only one you know about. If you hear from an OO, that means that either you were a good guy or he's got something on you that you really need to probably take a look at. So let's get on with the rest of them, okay? And I'll work from here most. So here you see the rest of them. I want to mention Larry, K1HEJ, who's been an assistant section manager for a number of years. Okay, Larry does the Welcome to Amateur Radio to New Hams, the letter that gets sent out, and it's modified a little bit here and there. Okay, he's the first person from Connecticut who really gets in contact with a young person or an older person just coming on with a technician license. Okay, we need to welcome all of these folks. I'm telling you right now, I spent the weekend at the league last weekend. Okay, the chief executive officer Tom spoke with us. Our community is aging. Okay, I'm only 73 years old, and I'm sure there are people in the room older than I am. But we're getting older. Okay, and we're getting more experience, and that's great. But we need to share the experience and the knowledge that we have with the younger folks. Okay, and for the younger folks, it's not just Twitter or Facebook or anything like that, or these social contacts, the social media. Amateur radio is a social media too, but most people don't think of it that way. We need to get the youngsters involved in ham radio because we need more members for amateur radio and more members, more people for the American Radio Relay League, which is the voice for ham radio, amateur radio in the United States. Okay, so we need to recruit, we need to get people involved. Okay, and it doesn't make any difference if they do it in Aries or emergency communications or contesting or just plain old rag chewing on VHF. We need to get them interested. We need to get them involved. We need them to learn how not to let the magic smoke out of their equipment. Okay, and we need to get them to talk. I can remember the first time I went on the air at CW with a 6L6 oscillator in 1957, 1958. Okay. I was so shaky, I couldn't even send my own call sign. Fortunately, I know how to do it now. It's taken me this long. But you know, these youngsters and even the oldsters that come in just don't realize, you don't realize how tough it is. You know, we've been around a long time, so we're comfortable. These folks are not comfortable picking up a microphone and giving their call sign. Okay, they don't know how to do it, and we need to help them. We all need to be Elmers. We all need to help them. Get them involved in a club, because the clubs are the lifeline of amateur radio. So get them involved. And also, if you can think of it, get them to join the league, because we need the money. Okay, up top you'll see a URL, okay? That's the identification and the news that was released to all amateurs by the league. It was on a report, okay, for an exercise that's going to take place for ham radio, 31st of October and the 1st of November. Okay. It starts at 1200 UTC, October 31, and continues through the end UTC, which is about 8 p.m. on November 1. 60 meters, the lower 4 channels. And remember, these are channelized, and you're limited to 100 watts. What you would be doing as hams would be to report a county status, and we'll talk about that. Okay, from a ham station to a military station or to a Mars station. Mars does quarterly exercises and more often, okay, every year. This is a chance for us as hams to provide information, and in an emergency, it's very important information about what's happening in our county or in our towns in an emergency or disaster. And we'll go over that. There are a couple of ways to do it, okay? There's going to be a webinar, okay, there are handouts, and I've got the handouts, I'll pass them around, I brought about 70 of them. Okay, and half of them will go on this side, if you'll start them around the way, please, half on this side. And that contains some notes that the N1RMF and I put together about what's happening on those 2 days. Okay. By the way, if you provide as a ham radio operator a report that goes to a Mars station, you'll get a QSL. You will get a QSL. Okay, this is printed on both sides, so don't forget to read the back too. Okay, there's going to be a webinar on the 25th. Okay, and there's a sign-up sheet that's on your sheets. There's a sign-up URL. Okay, to go to that webinar. Everybody's encouraged to come on over. Listen, I'm going to be up there, and I have a few questions because there are some unknown portions of just exactly what do they want. So we'll get that.
What date is the webinar?
25th of this month.
Thanks, Wayne.
Okay, so here's the question, and this is for all ham operators, not just Aries and MTS, okay, but it's addressed to you guys because you do things such as pass traffic, pass information, okay, and handle communication. So the question is, what's a county report? County report is a report concerning conditions that are found in a county, okay, what's happening in the town they live in, the county, the state, or the region. Okay? As you know, Connecticut does not have county governments. The last vestige of county governments in Connecticut, since they got rid of the sheriffs, okay, who were basically crooked as a dog's hind leg. The last thing that you see in Connecticut, as far as counties are concerned, is a bunch of dotted lines and 8 names. Hartford, Wyndham, New Linden, New Haven, you know, that kind of thing. So we don't have a county government in the state of Connecticut. It's still pretty much, the closest thing we've got is the Council of Governments, okay, which is not a governmental agency. It's just a bunch of governments, local governments that got together who decided they would do things together, and they get an economy of scale from that, okay? What the answers are basically are either yes or no, Y or N, okay? And if it's N or no, then a short statement as to what the condition actually is, okay? What you're reporting about, electric power status. Is there electricity? Yes. Are there widespread outages? If there's widespread outages, you would put in an N, and then you would explain where the outage is, okay? Water status, is there water supply? And that sometimes goes along with electricity, okay? The sanitation status, by sanitation we mean both sewage disposal and solid waste, okay? So if it's an emergency and trash is building up on the streets and et cetera, and garbage, then you report that as well. Medical facility status, that means hospitals. Are hospitals in operation? Are they having problems? Are they on diversion? Diversion means they're not taking any more patients because they're full. Okay? Communication status, that's telephone, telegraph, internet, that kind of thing. Radio, okay? And transportation status, are there blockages in the highways? Okay. And last, where did you hear about this? Where did you get the information from? Was it WFSB TV? Was it Channel 8 New Haven? Did you hear it in your local EOC? Where did you get that information? Was it on the news? Okay? So, an example. Okay, you're going to use Zulu time, by the way, when you give the time. The time that you heard that information or developed that information in Z. Okay? Water status, electric power, yes or no? What do you know? Medical facility, transportation, and where did you get the information? Those are the reports. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can either do it as a message, which is not what it looks like they're gonna be asking for. They're gonna ask you to tell them electrical, yes, or electrical, no, outage at such and such a place. Okay? It's essentially the same thing as a situation report, but it's a very short one, okay? And each one of these reports will be picked up by a Mars station, and it will be reformatted in a format that they use in the military, and it ends up being like a one-liner. Okay, and you'll see an example of that. Okay, what's happening? So how do we identify the county without using an actual name, such as Hartford or New Haven or what have you? Actually, each county in the United States has its own code. In Connecticut is the 9th state, so the first 2 digits in the county code, and it's called a FIPS code, F-I-P-S. You can look it up on the internet, just Google FIPS, F-I-P-S, okay? So it's a 5-digit code, and in Connecticut it starts 09, and it's 09001, 003, 005. I don't know why they skipped numbers. Apparently they were figuring that Connecticut would invent 8 more counties, but that's not the case. Okay? Each state has its own code. Okay?
Well, some cities would be in a separate country, such as New Britain.
Okay, you're gonna have to talk to New Britain about that one.
That's because they're too close
You
to
back up?
Newington.
Okay. So, those are the 8 counties, okay, 9, 3, 5, 7, okay, 11, okay. Fairfield is 09001, Wyndham is 09015. Okay, I hit too many buttons, it looks like. Now it froze. Now it froze.
That's Windows.
You got a box on the screen.
You gotta open up box, close that box.
You gotta close this.
The escape key.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, counter reports, it's useful. They use it, the military especially uses it. If they're going to bring in a package of resources and materials that would be important to Connecticut, and they need to find an airport in Connecticut that they knew was open, they would use this information. Okay? They would know who's got the problems and where to bring the response. Okay? So there are 6 conditions that you would be reporting on. Okay? And those are the ones. You'll find all of that on your sheet. Okay? Any remarks that you make have got to be short, they've got to be concise, okay? And they've got to be hard-hitting, okay? So one of the questions is, how do you fit, for the NTS people, how do you fit something like that in the standard NTS form? It's not easy. Okay? You may find that there's a way to do it, but there's a sample version of the first or part of what's known as a report body, okay? The town is Plainville. It's Hartford County, 09003. The time and date are there. The day is the 23rd of the month, and it's 0901 Zulu. Report was K6ABC at the local EOC, slant at the end. You can put that all on one line, and that's what? One word. So you can stay within the 20, and you can put it right across that line. Okay? That would be the first part. If you had additional stuff in there, okay? Here's another one. Middletown, which is in the county 09007. The day is 25 of the month, and it's 0901, and KA1XXX at the EOC, put that in, okay? Now, there's some answers in there. Electric, no. Why? Substation was blown. Water was okay. Sanitation was okay. Medical, no. Midstate is on diversion. In other words, Midstate Hospital in Middletown is not taking any more patients. Communications was fine, and the roads are fine. And the source is a relay from a ham radio operator, KA1XXX. Okay? Keep it short, keep it simple. Here's another one. Hartford, 09003, 23rd of the month at 0901. WFSB, which is a Tetful TV station, okay? Everything's yes, except for medical, which is no. Hartford Hospital is full.
Yeah, but there's another one in the city. There's another hospital in the city.
Right.
So medical would be no, even if St. Francis is still taking patients?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay? The other end knows that there are two hospitals. Okay? You don't, if you're gonna represent something which is totally positive, it's a yes, which means
Okay.
everything is good. For instance, if you have a limited outage of electricity in Hartford County, you would put no, and it would be Hartford out of power, but the rest, by virtue of just defining Hartford, the rest of the county is okay for electricity.
And it might just be a local outage in Hartford and most of the city still has power.
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
Then you would report that as no limited outage Hartford, North End, South End, okay, Governor's Mansion. Which is a good place to be out of power.
Good.
Yep.
And water.
And water, okay.
Without the two
This would be a
digits.
sample message for NTS people, okay? There's your header up there, number 005 routine, no handling instructions. Basically, if it's not delivered, it dies, okay? K1XYZ is the originating station, no check. We don't care about the check. Hartford, Connecticut, 1300 Zulu on the 30th. It's two station, and I call the station Alpha. It could be Alpha Foxtrot, Alpha 1, Charlie, November, who knows? That would be the Mars call sign. Break, exercise, because this is an exercise. There's a whole report, Hartford 09003, 30th of the month at 12:30 Zulu, no, yes, yes, no, yes, yes. Relay, K1XYZ. Next comment, electric, Hartford substation blow, that's blown, that's the first in, okay? The second comment, medical, Hartford and St. Francis hospitals are full, that's the second note. Break, and the signatures, K1XYZ. That's the whole message.
Quick question,
Yes,
2 digits for the date, you know, who's filling in the month?
okay. The month is up on the top in the header, November.
So that's the entire message, and I thought it was only that one long string starting with Hartford.
It was on, it's the 30th of the month, okay,
Right.
it's November because that's in the header of the message,
All right,
okay? And the time is 12:30 Zulu,
okay.
okay? Now, the message, although the observation was at 12:30 Zulu, the message was not generated until 1300 Zulu. That's when the ham radio operator wrote it down,
Okay.
okay? Seem logical? I mean, you need to know these
Oh,
little
yeah, I
details.
see what you're,
You need to know these little details, they're important.
I see.
Okay, so that's an excellent question. Okay, down at the bottom, you can put in, if you're a receiving station or you're relaying for somebody, you can put down who you received it from and the date and time, and who you sent it to on the date and time. Now, if you're doing this message yourself to a Mars station, you don't do a receive, you just put down a sent to, a date and time. That's your record. Okay, that's for anybody who does NTS type of messaging. Okay, the handouts are on the table. Actually, you've got the handouts. Okay. Anybody with questions?
So we should put them on the table now.
If you wish, I mean, you can always give them back, you know, I can use, I'm going to Upper New York tonight, okay, and I'm gonna be doing some hunting, and I do need stuff to start the fire. So I can use that to start the fire. Okay. My son is gonna be doing a presentation, my youngest son does an epic poem called The Cremation of Sam McGee. Okay. It lasts about 15 years. If you've ever been in Boy Scouts at Camp Tadma, you saw that presentation. And it's a lot of fun. All right, so that's it. If there's any questions, you know how to reach me. If you don't have my business card, go find it. Okay, it's k1dfs@arrl.org or org.net, okay? Send me the questions. I'm more than happy to try and answer them for you. Okay, that's my presentation at this point. Registration is open for the webinar. It's called Overview of Army and Air Force Mars, October 25th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, and we don't go to standard time, by the way, until after the 31st, okay? And you register at https blah, 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 okay? And if you don't type it in, you won't get there, if you don't type it in correctly. All right. Is Tom Frenay and Mike here?
I do have a presentation to make.
You do, Betsy?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot, yes. Let's get Betsy up so that she can make the presentation.
That's why she retained the ASM title, so she can still talk.
She wasn't gonna, she was not gonna go.
I gotta get my pocketbook, which is located way under here.
Got it?
I do, I just, give me a second, guys, I just need.
So that's,
I'm good.
that's, Tom here or, okay, so.
Yeah, this one, but I do need, can I come up to, here I am, let me get settled, guys. All right. One of the favorite things for me to do is to recognize our volunteers for wonderful service. And it is my pleasure today to recognize Wayne, N1CLV. He has been SEC for 8 years. He started on January 1st, 2009, and that's a long time to do this job. This job is the largest, really it's the largest program in the Connecticut in the ARRL field organization, because in Connecticut we've grown from 150 members in areas to some 800. Wayne had the experience of participating on the two-storm panel. We call one of those storms Snowtober. Remember the snow in October? And then the Irene storm, which resulted in his appointment to the State Interoperability Committee. He also chairs the ESF2 committee in Region 4. That committee handles logistics and communications, if you remember your ICS courses. He has led the section in 9 simulated emergency tests, and we have always placed in the top 5 simulated emergency. As you know, he helped to establish and coordinate the DMR effort, in which we went from no repeaters to about 30 repeaters in a span of only a few months. That is sponsored by the Connecticut State Police Amateur Radio Club, and Wayne participated on and represented the field organization ARES program in that effort. He participated in the rewrite committee of the ARES manual with ARRL. He worked tirelessly in his community doing amateur radio communications for various events. Angel Ride is a huge event. How many participants in Angel Ride, Wayne?
Ham radio?
Well,
About 30 hams.
Yeah.
About 350 riders
okay.
across the state.
Yes, and it is across the state, so it's really a state effort, and I think there were, what was this last year? How many years was it?
This was number 12.
Number 12, yes. Well, that's a lot, because he needs operators all over the state. He has the respect and support of the section, obviously. And so, Wayne, if you would come up, I have for you. This. Now, I guess, can you see it through here, or shall I take it out? Okay, we'll take it out. Someone suggested I leave it in, but then, you know,
Put it back.
I think, no, it's fine. We want to take it out and see it. So, I'm going to read it in a minute. I think we need it. Oh, all right. Well, I'll present it to you here. I'm going to do it this way. Get this right side up,
It's
right?
actually vertical that way.
All right. Oh, we're doing the best we can. So, it says here, presented to Wayne Gromlin and 1CLV in recognition of your extraordinary leadership and service as a Connecticut Section Emergency Coordinator over many years. Now, he's done this for 8 years, and I'll tell you, I appreciate it. On behalf of all of us, he has the appreciation of the Aries community, the Connecticut Field Organization at large, and the Connecticut section at large. Thank you, Wayne. You can say a few words. if you
I can
want.
say a few words. First of all, thank you very much. And I am going to put it back in the plastic.
All right,
Preserve it.
yeah. It has been a pleasure to work with,
Yes,
I'll
it
tell you.
has, thank you. No long speech. Aries is all about helping people. The good news is we communicate better than we sing. Based on a recent observation.
Great.
And I appreciate everyone's support. As Betsy noted, we have about 800 Aries members in the state, plus or minus a few silent keys that are in the database that we're always trying to keep up to date. And I really appreciate everyone's effort every time we've had a simulated emergency test or an actual activation. I've always had as much help as I thought I needed at a given time. The worse things get, the more folks show up to lend a hand. And I really do appreciate the support that's come. I have 5 DECs who take care of each of the 5 regions, and Steve takes care of Skywarn. So really, I just need to coordinate those 6 people, and they take care of the rest. Again, if you're familiar with ICS, the span of control, there's no way that I can operate 800 individual connections with folks who participate. So the DECs are a key element in the process, organizing and coordinating and leading within the regions, and I sincerely appreciate that. I'll text you lunch instructions. We're going to shoot for 1300 122 Broad Street. If you get your GPS warmed up earlier, I'll get back to you with that on a text message here in a few minutes. But Betsy, thank you very much. It's been an honor to serve, and I appreciate your support. A lot of late night phone calls and so forth. So thank you very much.
You did good. We had a lot of fun. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy, and thank you, Wayne. I think we need to hear from the district, New England District Director, Tom Fernay, K1KI. Tom, thank you for coming to Connecticut, and the floor is yours, sir.
Way too many people. Way too many people. This room doesn't usually fill up. This is great. Couple things. One is congratulations to Betsy. I'm sure she's going to be completely unstressed now for the next couple of years. And I think you're going to. I can't say you're going to lose some hair, but you'll find something different. I want to tell you something about my friend here, K1DFS. I worked in New England about 30 years, almost 30 years ago now. I was the editor for the contest department, and in 77, 78, 79, 80, somewhere in there. And one year we were doing the field day results. And one of the guys that worked for me was Bill Jennings, K1WJ, if you remember Bill. Bill's job was to help me in the field day results. He liked to look at the pictures. The pictures were the interesting things. So he got to select the pictures that went with the field day article. And one of those years, I don't remember which one, he picked out a picture of this guy on an inner tube in his backyard swimming pool. It was K1DFS. But the title said Captain Toenail. And it was a good way to have somebody look at the picture, but it was K1DFS. So I'm sure that made you famous and led to your current career.
Maritime Mobile.
Yes. But I think he probably knew you as well, but it was one of those nice, interesting pictures with an interesting caption, and I always remember you for that. And so, anyhow, so congratulations on your new job. Let me tell you about a couple things. First is Mike, K1TWF, was doing Nearfest yesterday and today and couldn't make it down here this morning. And maybe I know he was helping one of the booths that was selling a whole lot of stuff, so I'm sure they're still dealing with that. Let me tell you about a couple things going on with the FCC real quickly. I can't do it as briefly as the no, yes stuff, but basically with the FCC, it's no. They just don't move very quickly on things, so we're waiting for them on possible and probably likely access at 135 kilohertz or 2,200 meters for you who count in meters, and at 472 to 479 kilohertz, which is 630 meters. A couple of years ago, put out some proposed rules. We commented, a bunch of other people commented, and we've just been waiting for the FCC since then to make up their minds on how they want to implement it. The sticking point was we have to do something cooperatively with the utilities to make sure that if there are hams within some distance of the power lines that have their old technology switching, then there's some caution that may need to be taken to coordinate with them first. That's not going to affect most people, but FCC's proposal was that everybody that wants to operate there has to tell them. Our proposal was anybody close enough should have to tell them. And close enough was like within a kilometer. The problem is you can't tell easily if the line that goes near you is one of the lines that has to be worried about, because the technology is old and it's been replaced in some cases, and it uses a whole bunch of spectrum between 100 and 500 kilohertz, so it may not even apply in our area. We don't even know. So FCC is wrestling with that. That's something we're just waiting on, and that's kind of typical with the FCC. They do take a long time on most things. We're also waiting for them on a couple of other things that have been somewhat in the news lately. On 80 meters, we have proposed to them that they make some changes at the low end to expand the area available for digital communications up to 3650. When they did the expansion of sideband 10 or 15, 10 or 12 years ago, whenever that was, all the way down to 3600, it kind of crimped things a little bit too much on the lower end, and it's gotten quite crowded down there. And I can see with the next several years, with not many sunspots, there's going to be a lot more of this on 80 meters. So one of the things we proposed to them is to make some modest changes there to expand the digital band up a little bit. So we're waiting on that. We also proposed to change something with digital modes called symbol rate in the FCC rules. Symbol rate is the old technology that used to be used to talk about modems, 300 baud modems and stuff like that 30 years ago. And as a result, having that symbol rate limit in there has limited some of the things that can be done with digital modes that are more efficient. For instance, Pactor 3 is allowed at HF, Pactor 4 is not, even though it uses pretty much the same bandwidth, maybe slightly more than Pactor 3, but it's got 3 times the throughput. And most of the world at this point has regulations that allow Pactor 4 or other similar technologies on HF. So we proposed getting rid of the symbol rate, but also capping the bandwidth of a digital signal at 2.8 kilohertz. FCC said, well, yeah, symbol rate's old, let's get rid of it, but we don't need no stinking bandwidth. They didn't say it that way, but they said that this is kind of an unnecessary rule, so they didn't propose doing it. Our comments went back to the FCC last week and said, you really got to do both, because otherwise there is no cap on bandwidth, and that's not a good thing on HF bands where there's a lot of people sharing the spectrum. We don't want to have 10 or 20 or 30 kilohertz wide signals. So anyhow, we'll see what the FCC does with that. That's going to be likely another year or two on any of those before we see the light of day. They're likely to consolidate maybe the last two and a final proposed rulemaking, but you never know with the FCC how they're going to handle it. let's see, FCC, we're waiting for FCC action on the 5 megahertz band. The World Radio Conference last year in Geneva, a 5 megahertz band was agreed to worldwide. It's 15 kilohertz wide, it's not nearly as big as we hoped, and it's limited in power. So right now, what we have in the US is 5 channels limited to 100 watts. The new allocation approved worldwide is 15 kilohertz, not channels, 15 kilohertz, which may not be much more than 5 channels, but only 15 watts, I believe. So we've got some reconciling to do. We are hopeful that the FCC will simply change it so that it's a 15 kilohertz band and we can use 100 watts. So we're going to be filing some comments suggesting that to them, and hopefully that'll take place in a couple of years as well. Let's see, what else? Over the last month or 6 weeks ago, I'm sure most of you saw the messages that we sent out asking you to write to your senators to ask them to support the Amateur Radio Parity Act. We're still not quite done with that. The House of Representatives passed it earlier in the year. The Senate's got it on their in their queue. They're currently not in session, but they will be coming back after the November election, and hopefully they'll get at least a few things done. From what we know, the Parity Act is in a stack of non-controversial things that the Senate needs to do and is likely to do. So we think there's a good chance of it passing sometime in November when they come back for their lame duck session. But we may ask you again to contact the senators just to remind them of your support. In September, in August and September, we had almost 60,000 members write to their senators, which is incredibly big number. So I think all of them know about us at this point. The question is whether they'll finish the job and get the legislation passed. As I said, it's not controversial, it's nonpartisan, got support from both Democrats and Republicans, and the only thing holding it up is the inertia of Congress, which we all know about. It's not doing a whole lot of work, so.
The part of that word is inert.
Well, there's nice ways and not so nice ways to describe it. Yes, sir.
Can you give us a quick description
Oh.
of why that's good for
Yeah, I'm sorry, and as I was talking, I was thinking, I should describe what it's about. The Parity Act is a way to impact people that are in covenant-restricted homes or condos or homeowner associations that have restrictions on antennas. Right now, if you're in not in one of those areas, the FCC has PRB1, which we fought and got into the rules about 25 years ago. PRB1 lets you go to your local government and say, if you're going to regulate my antennas, you have to do the least possible regulation. And we've come to a point where it's most times city governments or county governments are receptive to have antennas, and you don't have to work through lots of lawsuits. The problem is in homeowner associations and other places that you're in under a private contract with the not the town or local government, but with the builder or owner. And private contracts are handled differently. And so with the FCC, we've gone to Congress and said, look, there's something like 68 million Americans living in restricted neighborhoods. That's 68 million out of 310 million or whatever it is. That's 20-something% of the country is in a restricted neighborhood. And it's important enough nationally that those folks be able to have some kind of antenna that we want some legislation that says they do. And the goal is to set it up so that you as a homeowner association member would be able to go to your homeowner association and say, I'd like to have an antenna and here's what I propose. and not have them say, nope, no antennas, see you later, and you have no option. So the point is to get you to the table, so there's a discussion with the management or the owners, and the bottom line would be an ability to have a reasonable antenna. Now, reasonable is pretty undefined. It's not likely to be in a 100-foot tower with tri-banders and all kinds of other things on it in most homeowner association neighborhoods. But at least in New England, in the Midwest or the West, there might be some with 20-acre groups. But the idea would be you get to have something, and it's a negotiation between you and the homeowner association on what that is. It could be a wire antenna out to a tree, could be a vertical in the back patio, maybe it's a small beam on the roof. I don't know, but so that'll have to be defined.
So does it take their right to say no away?
Correct.
And they have to negotiate.
Yes.
And so you have some supporting law they have to allow you to do something.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's the interesting thing is in pursuing this, we've actually gotten the Association of Community, CAI it's called, Community Association Institute, I think it's called. They're the national equivalent of ARRL for homeowner associations. And they've got tens of thousands of members. But we came to an agreement with them on what this legislation wording would be. After our original proposal, they came back and said we can't live with this and this. We've got something that both sides agree to live with. And so that's partly why this bill is not controversial, because there isn't an opposition in that sense, because they've signed on to it. I think they saw the handwriting on the wall, but there's a federal interest in making sure that hams in any location have the ability to put up some sort of antenna. And this will open the door to that. It may take some time to actually settle out what that translates to in terms of antennas, because I'm sure there'll be some legal tests and of the legislation as to what reasonable means. Excuse me. So hope that describes it. And so we're pretty optimistic about that. The big catch is that we're dealing with Congress. At this point, the House is settled. It's the Senate that we're worried about. And we've got a bunch of support on the Senate side, but on the Senate, one senator can hold up something. So their rules are a little bit different. But at this point, the only thing that's being held up is everything, because of the elections and other stuff going on. So we expect some legislation to pass after November, and we're hopeful that this might be one of them. It's our best shot we've ever had at attacking this problem and dealing with it. Because the FCC said they would not do it directly. They wanted some congressional push. They want Congress to tell them to do it rather than doing it on their own. They want somebody to set the policy and they'll implement it, which is probably the right way to do it. It's just harder for us. So that's happening. I'm optimistic about it. We got good support throughout New England, and we'll see how that goes.
So it's going to give us the ability to pierce the covenant.
Yes, in a sense, yeah. And if you're in one of those homeowner association areas already, there's already legislation on the books to put up a dish antenna for satellite TV, because the 30 years ago when satellite TV was being proposed as a competitor for cable, the public policy basically said, yeah, it's good to have competition, and so the FCC and Congress preempted the homeowner association rules to require them to accommodate dish antennas and small satellite receive antennas, which is already on the rules. So this is not dissimilar to that, but this is more to do with what
One's
our
commercial, the other one is nonprofit.
Right. Yeah, or volunteer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, I'm not watching the time. How are we doing? 5 minutes?
4 minutes.
4 minutes, all right. Guess I was watching. Let's see. Other thing to mention, since April, ARRL's had a new chief executive officer, Tom Gallagher, NY2RF, after Dave Sumner retired in April. Tom has hit the ground running. He's a very different person than Dave Sumner, got lots of interesting ideas, and is going strong. He's a real smart guy. I'm sure you will hear more from him as time goes on, but basically he's the one in charge of making sure that operations go smoothly in Newington. This weekend he's out in California for a Pacific Division convention, Pacificon. So he's been doing a lot of traveling and meeting people. If you get a chance to talk to him, he was at Boxborough. If you get a chance at some point to talk to him, he's really interesting to talk with, and really he listens very well. So I'm feeling good about that. He has his own ideas, and he likes to bounce things off of people, and he's a very good listener. So you're here for Betsy, I know.
Oh.
Yes.
Steve, W2DAD.
Hey.
Has there been any push on EMP and prevention of what could potentially happen with an EMP burst with all of our electronics, including our amateur radio equipment?
Nothing directly, although I know there's been some internal discussions, because I've had them with a couple of people. It's been quite a while since ARRL has, I think, directly addressed the issue in terms of what people can do to protect their equipment from something like that, and really has had more to do with what happens if there's a big solar flare, and that causes similar kinds of impacts. If there's a really large solar flare, it could easily take out a lot of sensitive electronics.
Right.
And I think for us, that's probably the scenario we would direct the discussion to, although it would certainly apply for what you're saying. But as we get down to, how do I say this? Nationally, the government is starting to pay more attention to the impacts of big flares and the power grid and the kinds of things that can happen from a 100-year solar event. And that has gone into some of the planning that FEMA has done behind the scenes, some of it more in front than not. There's currently a group working on it at FEMA, if I'm not incorrect. So there is some discussion about it, and we probably need to take that and translate it more into what you can do individually with your own equipment to make sure that if there is an incident that takes down the power grid, that you're also, you also don't lose your radios at the same time. So that's not a good answer to you, but the discussions are there. I haven't seen anything come out of it. We had a board member who was actually the one that wrote the last QST article on W4 PWF, Dennis Bodson. He was quite knowledgeable in that area, worked somewhere in the government at one point. He passed away a year or so ago. But at one point I was talking to him about updating his article. But that's been 20 years, I think, since that was published. And it would be a good thing to have an article update on. And for that matter, part of what I should say to you is, if you think there's a need for a kind of article like that, or attention, if you know somebody who can write it, we're looking for them. I mean, basically all the material that goes into QST or other publications, it's generated from the ham community. So don't overlook if you're knowledgeable enough writing on topics. We don't do as much technical writing internally as we maybe did 30 or 40 years ago. We're always looking for people outside of Newington to help us with articles in a lot of different areas. So if you've got some expertise, step forward. I'll plug you into the right people. And if you're asking the question, maybe you know something about it.
Yeah, I most likely will send you an article.
Okay, all right, well, that's what I'm looking for. Great. It must be about time, so.
Okay, so again, Thank you. If you have a question for Tom, I'm going to ask you to hold it and catch him. Okay. Because we really are out of time, and there's another speaker that has a presentation. Again, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you.